almost the final nail is in Albion's coffin. So at least they can enjoy Peterborough United, hopefully whipping them to shreds next year.
There's still a bit of scratching though, isn't there, coming from underneath the lid?
We're live. Hello. We've already started talking. So if you are watching, hello.
Hello.
Yes. Well, I don't know what to say. I was very, very pleased with the first half. Really, really nice to see a different bit. 10 metres further up the pitch makes all the difference. Unfortunately, I'm also a little bit disappointed because I felt when we came out with our 1-goal lead that we dropped back 10 metres or so and fell back into our old ways of trying to sit, and that's what inevitably. Yes, it was poor marking, but we shouldn't be. They were having attack after attack at one point there, and I think sitting deeper, not to. But that's disappointing. But some great players, performances from some of the younger players. Really promising stuff.
I think it was the youngsters' time. I think it was the youngsters' evening to shine, and I think they all did. Ultimately, it would stand out. Obviously, I think it has to be Vitor Ferreira, which is his full name. But just did his job terrifically, and his part in building up for Fabio's goal, which some will say was a bit of luck, but it was a nice lob. Have to say, nice curling lob that looped over the keeper and gave Johnston no chance. I have to say, Vitor did a fantastic job across the whole, across it, within it, and I think it will give, hopefully, it will make Jeff and Nuno extremely pleased, because if you give him the time, give him the space, and just give him minutes on the pitch, he can perform, and he demonstrated his ability superbly. As well, 8-0. Yeah. Good down that left. So I hope he's all right. I hope it was just a knock and nothing too serious with the injury. But very decently done again by him. I think again, if we can get in the summer and then maybe get another defensive-minded left back, obviously to fill in for Johnny again, it would be very, very handy. And Owen as well, running across, making some very good runs. Could have had a goal or two if it wasn't for a bit more power in the headers and the shots that he had, but also came across and did his man marking, I think, particularly decently. Ruben, again, just being Ruben, just all over the place, doing his thing in the middle fantastically. Maybe one or two little iffy moments, but it happens with everyone. But came across, did his job, 2 knocks in the process as well with his leg and then his head, but came out absolutely fine. And again, on another day with the shots he's had, at least again, he's moving forward, able to get shots on target. That's one thing of which this season we could be pleased about is Ruben's development in that kind of the game. And then I would say Fabio for the goal, and his movement in general, him wanting to get into decent positions. And also Rui with those several key saves in that, particularly in that second half. Always going to be difficult. The form book completely goes out the window in a derby of the kind. Always is, always has, always will. At least there was a point, unlike January's capitulation. And it means, thankfully, 3/4 of the final nail in Albion's coffin has been put in, and they can look forward to Peterborough United heading to Hawthorns before the year is out, of which, by the way, extraordinary promotion for them on the weekend. So, and in general, I think a much better performance than last Sunday's utter shambles, which made me slightly too angry to, 1, come on, and 2, I realised obviously had some leafleting to do. So, yeah, it was at least it was better than last week, and the Albion with ended any realistic chance of those folks down the road staying up.
Yeah, I thought that game kind of highlighted where our team is, to be honest. Promising youth, need better defenders. Owen Otasawi, I was looking forward to seeing him. I don't think kind of what right of the midfield in that kind of formation is his best position. But I'd always give a player a lot of leeway for that. And he was under-hitting passes initially, but what was very positive
to the game, didn't he?
Yeah, he definitely grew into the game, and that's a sign of a big positive for me, because it's easy to go, oh, it's not working, and you begin to hide, and he didn't. And I think he needs more time in a good position. But he seems to me to have some good attributes there, especially later on, as I think you were alluding to, Cash, where he was making runs which were quite dangerous, and I felt that was very positive.
I think I'd say he and Semedo, just as they linked up quite nicely, I think, a few times as well.
I'd prefer him to seem a bit more central and let Semedo kind of come out wide, or even, I mean, ideally, if you got Neto on the left and Traore there, you kind of think in that Dendoncker position as an option. Although I thought Dendoncker was kind of okay. Passing back a bit, maybe too much, but he was driving forward a bit more in the first half.
He needs to get some new, some different studs for his boots or something, because he seemed to stumble over the ball so many times, and then lose it, which was a bit alarming at times.
Yeah, I think he was better than he's been for a while, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
Neves, I thought, had quite a good game. I just, apart from he just can't shoot. I think people need to kind of get over the fact that Neves used to score goals. He doesn't. He's not good. He's got a long way to go before he gets that reputation. But the rest of his game is great. He was further up the pitch. Few bad decisions there, but it's nosebleed time for him. But I think the one player I think we can all agree is showing that, and kind of at Nori, I mean, I just thought he and Vitinha were quality. And Fabio, I just thought when you put all those four youngsters, when you look at that, you've got to say, that's the nucleus of the side in probably 2-3 years' time, if we can keep them. I mean, next year they'll hopefully get a lot more game time, but they're going to make mistakes because of that age. But they're the kind of players who will grow massively in those 2-3 years. It's got to be positive. Just you want to build a team. I
thought for Vitinha, I thought he didn't look quite ready in other games, but that game was head and shoulders above his other performances. I mean, that was an awesome performance. I mean, really was top draw. It really was very good.
But remember, in that position, he's got a lot of being that kind of playmaker, go forward player. You've got to have the physicality, which I think he did reasonably well on, and I think you've got to know the players around you. And because he had the younger players around him, he probably naturally trains maybe more with them. I don't know, but it seemed to work better.
He seemed to know where Silva was every time. Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few balls that didn't quite make it, but I was so pleased to see them just being attempted, because okay, it didn't work that time, but 7 or 8 times out of 10 that would have gone through and he would have been on goal. Keep making those passes, because they will work at some point, and it's just nice to see. It's better for me, I think, in that position where he's got someone he knows he's making a run, that he tries to thread a ball through to them, than turn and just kick it back and go sideways and slow the whole thing down. I'm happy with that, because if you lose it there, you're losing it up the correct end of the pitch if you're going to lose it, not fucking around with it at the back.
Yeah, you're losing it with the defender facing their goal. So they have to play, they have to look for safety first. If you lose it when the defender's facing your goal, they look for a forward pass. It's basic 101 stuff. Where do you want to lose? Back to Man City, isn't it? Where do you want to lose the pitch? I want to lose it in their third, because I know that they're going to have to turn, and then we'll press them. And we were pressing a bit higher as well, because
totally different.
If we lost the ball. Now, it does show, and I don't want to knock Jose. I don't think it's fair on him, but he's just not that type of player, I don't think. Or if he is, it's been coached out of him since he's been at Wolves. But it does raise questions like, if that's what we're trying to play, we definitely need better defenders. We absolutely, and we need some pace in midfield to support Neves. And those to me are probably the most pressing positions. We can sprinkle, like you say, another left back. Obviously, the big concern there is Johnny. I mean, because he's exactly. You can kind of push Ignori up forward a bit more.
Yeah.
It looks very positive, but unfortunately, those Neto, Johnny, and Raul's injury, you kind of feel they've scupped next season to a degree as well. So yeah, that's a big worry.
Well, like you say, if they focus their recruitment around two good centre halves with, like you say, with a bit of pace and awareness, which is it ain't going to be cheap, but there are players available. There will be players available which you'll be able to get in that position, and that you could, because we don't really, as you say, if Raul, Neto, less extent Johnny in attacking sense, aren't really going to be figured that much next season, because it's going to take them at least half a season to get up to full speed, even if they were ready at the start of the season. But you don't need to really go mad on strengthening the forwards too much, because they're going to come back.
Yeah.
For later in the season. Whereas the really pressing thing is the couple of centre halves. I mean, I'm sure I saw someone going on about that we were rumoured for what's his name again? What's his name? He used to be at Bournemouth, went to Man City.
Not Taki. Nathan Aki.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Apparently, yes. I think that was someone had posted that up as a rumour. I don't know whether it's any substance in that, but
we'd have to spend a huge amount though, considering he went for how much did he go to City for? Actually, if I try and have a look and try and remember, it was many millions of pounds. I know that. 41 million quid last August. Would City really want to get rid of a young, promising, a very, very bright centre back who, on his day, he's an animal? We'd have to go out of. We'd have to blow the water to shred. We'd have to blow the water up and back into the sky, personally, if we wanted to try and get him.
I get that, but does Nathan Aki want to play every week?
That is a good question. I'm sure he would. Maybe
might be that in it. I don't know, but then
maybe a season long loan. Maybe a season long loan. I suppose might help. A season long loan and potential to turn it into a.
Yeah, the trouble with that is you're not really progressing your team. And you've got to see the thing about buying, and this is why it does my noggin in, that we need Premier League ready players. Well, that means 26, 27 typically. It means that it's getting that. It's like a fine wine, isn't it? If you're buying it as it gets better, you're going to pay more than when it's just beginning to turn.
Yeah, I suppose.
And you unless you're the big teams which know they can just effectively, and I mean this literally, invest the wages and the signing on fee in the team over the period they'll play, because you'll get no effectively resale value. But you'll win things with those players unless you're willing to take that risk, and not many teams in the Premier League are or can. Then you either go for those mature players, and by definition, going for the second best of those players, you're not going to win anything. So your only hope to break in is to go for the gamble on youth. Yeah. There's no other way. So really, the question comes down to, if we're looking for, and I'll put Aki's getting into that kind of ready-baked age. He's probably the perfect example, as you've hinted there. Well, you've said directly, he's going to cost a fortune to get away, and I just don't think he'd come. I mean, playing 10 games and getting a few medals is a lot more attractive than playing probably 20 games or 30 games at Wolves and getting nothing.
Indeed, but obviously Champions League semi-final in his first season.
Yeah,
I suppose shows that, and obviously they're on the verge of winning the title. So,
and the League Cup, haven't they? So,
indeed.
So, I think we have to, if we do want to break in and make a mark and continually try to improve, the only way you can do it is youth. Saying that we can just buy 5 or 6 Premier League ready players is just fantasy. If they will keep you mid-table, and you might have a 7th, but you're not going to progress. The only way you can progress is by buying and risking the Fabios and the Noris and Vitinhas. Now, they may not be the players, although they look pretty good. But that's the only way you can do it. And you've got to offer them game time, and that means they're going to make mistakes. And, it's how much patience the fans have in doing that. So, but in general, I felt that was far more positive, because it just felt like it was something different, and it felt like we were playing the kind of football for periods of that where you think, we this is what we want to see, some nice play going forward. And then, there's a few times we go into that, pass it back, go around the other side, pass it back, lose it. But generally, it was a much better performance. So it kind of, there's a couple of things in that game. I think that game's a microcosm of where we are, where we want to be, maybe, or not want to be. And is Nuno, the question, is Nuno the guy to take us forward? Because if he can invest in the right places, if he can be given the money to invest in the right places, and he can change his mindset from being totally defensive, then I see no reason why he couldn't. But I mean, again, like you said as well, the performance again, you're playing West Brom in the howling rain. I'll take that all day long, to be fair. I'm disappointed we didn't win, but when we score first and then sit back, I kind of know what's going to happen.
I'd say that was the only thing that disappointed me, was that we fell back into that once we'd gone one ahead, especially with all the promising play and all that in the first half, being that bit further up the pitch. It wasn't gung-ho, it wasn't overtly attacking, it was just controlling the game. It suited us fantastically. And then we sat back and you could just see all the same problems that we always have. I just don't understand why we went back.
Well, look what happened when we scored.
Undid all that good work.
Look what happened when we scored. We stepped up the urgency. I mean, and that to me says, the thing that does worry me is it implies it's team tactics. And if it is, they are literally awful. I just can't go. You could go through so many games unless you're Arsenal. And what was that Arsenal team built on? 1-0 to the Arsenal. It was built on a rock-solid defence, and we haven't got that. So why would you try and do that?
I genuinely thought when we were further up the pitch, I'll be honest, I thought Neves played very well. I thought Dendoncker was quite quiet, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because he was obviously breaking up play and doing the right
thing. It was a better game. I think it was a better game for Leander tonight.
Well, that's it. But also, you had Otasowie, who grew into the game, and you had Vitinha, who was playing absolutely outstandingly. But they were playing in midfield.
Yes,
and that's the thing. And they were
pushing it
all in
forward.
their midfield position, and we were you only had to look at the possession stats.
58, 40, I've got the stats up actually. 52-48 possession, 20 shots to their 10, 10 on target to us, 4 on target to them, 6 corners to us, 5 to them, and then 11 fouls by us, 17 by them. So obviously we're having the lion's share of it.
But where we were holding that possession, it was different today. We've held possession on games where we've had it and we've just knocked it across the back for about 10 minutes. Today we weren't doing that. We were knocking it about in front of their back line, and that was the difference until we scored, and then it was back all the way back in. And that's why I'd say that's the only reason I feel really disappointed, is because we didn't need to. For me, we just simply didn't need to. We were well in control without being under really any threat, and we only put ourselves under threat once we sat. And I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I'm the same. I mean, I'm sure the people who know more about football than me will talk about energy levels and taking breathers, but I know one thing from when I've been playing football, and we've said this before, you use up a lot more energy when you haven't got the ball than when you have.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Nothing's more tiring than defending. It's tiring mentally. It's just doesn't make, to me, just doesn't.
Oh, Richard.
Oh, he's gone well.
Does that happen? Is it planned?
Oh, there we are.
And if it's planned, why?
Well, you'll have to say that again because we've missed pretty much all of that.
Because you froze.
You glitched out on us.
I think you still are glitching a little bit. So, what can you do with internet?
Oh. The internet fully glitched at that point. Okay.
Well, I think, is he turned himself off, or is he trying to sort himself out, which is fair enough. But
right.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Is that better?
That seems all right now.
Yeah, seems all right. You're a little bit behind in terms of
you're moving again. Anyway, that's
in terms of speech to camera. It looks like the words are coming out first, and then the actual movement on the video comes.
Yeah.
Good old internet connection.
I'll shut up then.
Okay. Well, man of the match then. I think
it's pretty clear. Has to be young Vitor Ferreira or Vitinha for the way in which he just did his job brilliantly, bossed the midfield, and obviously his flick in the build up to the goal was just beautiful. That enabled, I think, that to work out. Even obviously slight luck with it bouncing off Bartley or whatever it was, but ultimately he just did his job brilliantly. So much energy, so much enthusiasm, exactly what we need in a young man. I think we should absolutely get in the summer, because I think I would suspect, now I'm going to have a hot take here, that João will hang up his boots and say between the next 2 and 3 years he'll go into our coaching staff, and then Vitinha will hopefully take his place. As if we can perform like that again, then we've got a superstar on our hands. So definitely young Vitor gets it by a country mile.
Well, I think we're all in agreement there, but I think I could make a very good segue there into a different subject very quickly, because you mentioned Moutinho going into the coaching staff, and with this rumor that's come out this week that Nuno's off in the summer just to go and basically to go back to Portugal and manager there because he's see his family again. Perfectly understandable. Would Moutinho be the one who actually steps in and fills? Would that be a big risk? Would that be something that even is interested in, for that matter?
It would be a gamble, certainly. I don't know if he's got any coaching badges and stuff and whatever.
But also, how many of the rest of Nuno's backroom staff would stay, and how many would go?
Indeed, it's a £64,000 question, which we need to. Which we need to see. I'd understand. I would understand Nuno if he did to go back home to see it, be close with his family. That I think would be entirely fine, and we can obviously then give him the best wishes. Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen, considering obviously tonight was an improvement and what. And obviously, it sounds like he will want to go gun ho in the summer to strengthen the squad and get more numbers in. But potentially João I suppose could be an option going forward, because if we can, I very much think he could be someone who is good in management. I don't know if he's said he wants to go into management after he retires, but potentially it could be something to look at now. And obviously he's been just generally superb in the 3 years we've had him, and knows the game obviously inside out. And I was obviously had a very decent career, so that might be a fairly decent option going forward, I have to say.
Do we know if he's done his badges?
That is the question which I don't think we have the answer to.
I was going to say, Cash, you're usually the man with the stats.
Let me have a look at see if I can find anything on Google as I'm searching. There was an article from 2019 saying he plans to take him, but not until he retires. That was ahead of the FA Cup semi, when he spoke to the Times. But so he's going to be waiting until he hangs up his boots.
It is a possible. It is a. at the end of the day, you'd expect if there's some kind of succession planning going on, and it might be the case that he takes a lesser role. It's definitely possible. I don't know. It's too speculative for me to comment. I wouldn't be against it. But I do think there's an argument that a different coach will get a lot more out of these players than, or that's unfair. A different coach has the opportunity to probably get a lot more out of these players. I think there's potential there that isn't being tapped by the way we play, being so defensive. So I do think there's scope for improving results by changing manager, or say manager changed system. Whether that's Moutinho. One thing that he's a very intelligent player. It doesn't mean that he's going to be a good coach. I just you've got to see something to say he'll be a good coach, and you're looking for some form of. He's a leader, definitely, but I don't know. It's too speculative.
Yeah, you never know, do you? Because there's so many good players who ended up being absolutely garbage managers.
Yeah.
So hard to say, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time will tell. I think are the three magic words here. We'll have to obviously see what that is and see what things are like, and obviously if he does become a coach, and how good he becomes. But obviously some are good. As Burnley beating West Ham, which is actually very bad news for Albion.
No, it's 1-1 though.
Oh, is it 1-1?
Yeah, West Ham just scored.
I didn't know. But yeah, but no, Stephen Gerrard has cracked it, for example, at Rangers, and obviously Frank did an all right job to an extent at thinking of Bob, whilst Wayne Rooney's obviously having troubles. He's had trouble settling in at Derby, and obviously it could result them in going down, to League One, which would be crazy enough this weekend in a winner-takes-all clash against Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, obviously very too early to tell, and obviously see how far into his kind of a coaching career he would want to go. But I can't see why we shouldn't rule it out. No, and obviously say he's done a terrific job in the last 3 seasons. João, obviously some have moaned him because of his age and whatever else, but come on, the quality of the man and the career he's had has been very good across the board. So again, I think it should be something we should think about in terms of the medium term. Because if we could maybe keep João until he retires, I think would be great. If we can keep João until he retires and then enable him to begin to step into that mould, that could, I think, certainly be an option which the club should explore.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but you've got to. It's the kind of thing where you want to have seen them show an interest. You want to have seen them do the badges, maybe. I don't know, come out maybe a bit more on the presses. Things. There are certain things you'd expect to happen for that to maybe be more of a reality. Didn't he say he wanted to finish his career? Is he one of those who said he wanted to go back? Where did he start his spot? Did he start at Porto? Moutinho.
Let's have a look.
I don't think he's one of those who said he wants to go back to where he started.
According to the wonder of Google, he began at Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah, he's not going back.
So he was at Sporting Lisbon, then Porto, then Monaco, where we got him from, and then came to us. Whereas Moe's obviously 105 appearances actually, which is crazy already. But don't know if he suggested that actually. Trying to have a look. But obviously he's been a journeyman and he's got himself a few honours. Twice a Europa League winner. Obviously the Euros as well, the League 5 Portuguese titles. Still need
it doesn't really count.
3 Portuguese titles, 3 Portuguese cups. Well, some will not. Rory would certainly disagree. But League 1 with Monaco.
You can't argue that there's 3 teams who win it
Yeah, the Euros and the Euros, and of course the Euros and the Nations League.
Well, those are the big ones. Yeah,
obviously is the biggie, yes, and obviously a couple of Europa Leagues, like UEFA Cups in there as well. So who knows? Time will tell. But it's a very interesting proposition.
I mean, personally, I'd like Nuno to stay. I mean, and transition the team into a new. If what the first half is what the plans are, then that's a very promising.
And four at the back, and four at the back was all right. Yeah. In the first half, we did our job. I think Codes actually as well did fairly well in terms of being able to cover his man, made a few very important blocks.
Yeah, he's okay with that though. I mean, it's when he and in fairness, his organisation's good. He was pointing to. They made the point. He was pointing to size where you need to be to defend against their goal. The point is, he's as a pure defender, he's not the world's best, and that's not because he's a bad player. It's just that he lacks certain attributes. I think it was the kind of game where when they're breaking and he's there to mop up, sniff out danger because he can read the game. He can do that well. If you want to push up, then you're not going to have so much defensive cover. He's got to do a lot more work and be a lot faster, which he could do if he had legs next to him and another intelligent player like him. Be no problem. Which means, ironically, he's probably more likely to be successful in that role with England because he's got high quality defenders around him to actually perform that role. I don't discount any player. Like Saiz would be an excellent player to have in your squad to fill in if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to lose him because I think he's just too useful in too many positions. Because he can slot in any game and cover pretty much half the pitch and do a reasonable job in all of those positions.
He knows he's okay coming forward. He got a good header or two in. I don't knock him. I just think if we want to climb the leagues, we need better. The only way we can do it is by freeing Shackles from being so defensive, and the only way you can do that is by having better defenders. And it's not I hate Saiz, so I hate Cody. It's just hold on, I've got a very whingy cut here. It's just the.
I was wondering what that was.
I'll show you. It's a Bengal.
Animal of the week.
Hello.
That's a beauty.
Yeah, they're very loud Bengals. That's the only trouble with them. It's positive. I agree with you, Bod. I wouldn't want to see Nuno go, but he does have to change. And if he changes, you kind of feel there's untapped potential there, both in the team and what he can offer. But if he doesn't change, I would want him to go. If he's going to play defensive and not make the changes, I would want him to go.
Of course, if a performance like last week became regular during next season, then of course I think it would have no alternative but to get rid. Yeah. No, and obviously last week was just the biggest shambles of the season by a mile. But no, obviously the way in which he did change, and obviously there were several changes tonight, which I thought was a positive to say the youngsters obviously doing their bit rather well. That and obviously the fact that he has now said publicly that we now need a much bigger squad. He's obviously realised the mistake that he has made and he wants to put it right. I think has probably calmed a few nerves a little bit. So obviously so we can get out the checkbook in the summer and see
that's the thing though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, indeed. How much have we got? How much will we have? How much money will there be in the bank to probably play with? And can we be able to nail those targets that we're wanting? No, and obviously, no doubt some players that we want Europe and what?
Comes down to FFP. There's been talk of relaxing it, but I've not seen anything to say what relaxation there will be.
Yeah, I wonder after the events of 2 weeks ago as to how that might come into many people's minds, which at least the Premier League, just to say today, we're going to strengthen their rules considerably. Still no proper punishments yet, which is, typical of UEFA.
Well, let's look at what have they spent over the last few seasons? Let's 50, 60 million in the summer? Realistically,
I think so. Yeah, I think
usually a figure around that sort of amount.
I think about £80 million. I think last summer. Of which still some people were like, oh, why did you pay that much for Semedo in silver? Shut up, people.
Semedo's
their
proving
penny.
it, though. Yeah. Semedo's proving. He's a classic example of, it takes time. It takes time to get into the Premier League to some degree, unless you're Bruno Fernandes. I would so seems.
Fernandes, who is class, by the way.
Yeah. But Semedo is showing he's so close as well to getting 2 or 3 goals. You can feel it coming, can't you?
I know. I mean, he should have. I mean, but for a very good save today, he would have scored.
Yeah,
I thought that was an absolute world class save because he was okay. The keeper was lucky that it was towards him, but he had no time for that. Absolutely to react to that. That was a top draw save. But then he is a very good keeper. So
indeed,
fair enough.
Indeed, and the fact that Nelson was able to get into that position and go for the shot was great in itself, and it does prove obviously he along with obviously his defensive work, because of that again was some giving and stick about the goal, but ultimately that was a fairly decent cross in the box. I mean, obviously in this case it was Romain who catastrophically failed to come across his man and cover it, and maybe Semedo could have tried to put his foot out, but it could have meant the ball going anywhere.
Well, it seems to be, because at Norrie seem to back off that. There seems to be a belief, if you get them to cross but put enough pressure on, then it's the guys in the box's job to deal with it. What we don't want is them beating you and then picking out a threaded ball in the box. That seems to be more the approach to defending we take. I don't know. I think Semedo's fine.
He's good. Absolutely.
He's if you want that kind of player, I think you are around that price. You could argue you might have gone a bit cheaper, but you're going to be in the high 20s, aren't you? For that type of player.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's say in the summer we've got 60 million. I mean, 60 million and a couple of suspended fees like the Vitinha one, but probably but we won't count them. Just outright 60 million, which. You could get 30. Let's say we went out and bought 30 million centre halves. That's going to make an astounding. In theory, that's going to make an astounding difference to the shape of the whole team.
Indeed.
Because that's buying yourself a new defence. Just that sort of money. It's unlikely. It's more likely you'll spend 30-something million on someone. If you can get them a similar sort of ilk to Semedo, and then a rising star for say 15, 20. But to be honest, stick that in a 4. I'm in.
It's just a case of strengthening the back line, and doing it as quickly and as efficiently as possible as soon as the window opens, because again it's. And otherwise, that is going to be a big, obviously, area that will struggle in next season, and it could cost us dearly. With obviously the strength and the quality we've got in the side, and obviously with Fabio now beginning to do his bit, it could still hurt.
That is not losing anyone.
Yeah, indeed.
It's you keep the. I personally, I'm a big believer in you bring someone in who's better than what you've got, and then you put what you've got down level, and they're then fighting to retain their place. Don't just then get rid of them, because then we're back to square one. If we get any sort of injury, you're looking then through untried under 23s and people out of position and things like that. We need a bit more strength in depth. They're all adequate performers at this level in the right formation. And you might have to tweak your formation if you get a slew of nasty injuries or something. That's okay. We'll accept that. That's what's happened at times this season. But if we are buying players, I do think we need at least. I think we do need one. I know you were saying before, Richard, about how difficult it is to, and how much you can spend to get that oven-ready player. But I do think in defence we just need one, at least one now.
Yeah, I would agree there. Yeah. That is the position you'd go for. Defenders are slow; they do mature slowly. It's the one position, unlike a striker, where I was talking to a Portuguese guys yesterday, and we were discussing João Felix for 100 million.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the numbers just get ridiculous at the top end of the pitch. I think the value is to be had in defence. I don't. The one thing you said something there quite interesting as well, Cass, because we have got the Euros, which traditionally that drags the transfer market out unless you've already got the deals lined up. So that will be interesting to see if we do any early business or we're waiting until the Euros. And that would worry me a little bit if we're waiting to the Euros.
I wouldn't want to wait and see who's the star in the Euros, because there's always some star.
No, obviously the Euros being June to July, obviously I think quite a bit of transfer business will probably be done quite early. I think before the Euros, and in fact within the first part of the Euros, and obviously we don't want to therefore be left hanging for, say, third or fourth targets.
I have to say, I have noticed there's a lot more rumours who we're linked with at the moment.
What are they? I haven't been fully taking note, actually.
I just keep reading them. I couldn't tell you the names of them. I'll have to go back through the forum. But there's a few. Who was the one recent? The one of late that I keep seeing. Trincow. No, Trincha. I can't pronounce it.
I've seen the odd ones on the BBC's gossip column, which usually obviously has all the paper talk.
There was one that keeps getting discussed a lot, and I can't. I have to find
again. I know that South Korean forward is also mentioned a fair bit. Whose name I've forgotten.
Nothing like a bit of preparation for when you come online chatting.
But there have been a few which I know have creeped around and have been chucked around in terms of more persistent ones. See if it comes true. And
the player who the unnamed player that I can't remember the name of, he was another forward player anyway, who can play across the sort of front.
I think it's that South Korean guy. I'm pretty sure it's that
No. I think it was another Portuguese guy.
Oh yeah. Oh God. I did see
the perennial Andre Silva.
No.
He's been doing all right down at Leverkusen.
We were never in for Andre Silva. That's the
one. Rumor has it.
The one that Jeff Shee, in a meeting with a few of us off the forum, said the only one I could tell you that for sure that we weren't interested in was Andre Silva. We never ever even inquired about him.
It was all rumour, and it was all a load of old toffee essentially in the end, wasn't it? There we are.
To be fair though, that's how you want to do your business, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, as frustrating it is for all us fans, and we want to know, we're linked with everyone and buy everybody. It's actually realistically way better to not know, because that's, no one else can get the jump on you and stuff like that. I'm sure they can to a degree in the circles that they all run in, but you're not wasting time with fake leads. It just gets done, and then it's there, and then it's, to be honest, it is a bit like a birthday or Christmas where you're opening a surprise present. So it is quite nice in that sense. It's like, oh, that actually, when there's something does come out, you're like, oh, there's a good realistic chance it is going to happen when something does break.
Yeah.
Just like Silva's move, which came completely under the radar, out of the blue, and then it was basically done by the end of that day, I think. I started I remember I provoked the news on the forum about Silva.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the tweet and I was like, oh, hang on. It seems like this one has legs because we've been having dinner with Thingy. But it is going to be a very genuinely fascinating window, particularly obviously with, as I say, with obviously what Nina has said, and seeing what we actually are able to do and how many we do shift off, how many we can therefore bring in, what kind of money is there, and how quick we're going. And I would hope, therefore, with obviously his comments, that we're hopefully beaving behind the scenes now. As I say, I think the sooner we're able to get business done, and the sooner we're able to get things over the line, and obviously everyone, the folks that we're wanting in, I think the better. And then hopefully we'll enable as best possible preparation for the season. As by the way, as well, just to say, I think one other note, one kind of other news note, I suppose, Wales women winning again. Woohoo! It wasn't obviously streamed yesterday, as it usually has been because of the social media blackout. But Wolves women in the Piggott and Crone Cup, which which they're in their second game of, beat Loughborough Foxes with a dramatic 90th minute winner yesterday down at where was that? Was that away or was that at Castlecroft? I'm not sure, but win's a win, which is great, and it's their second one, 2-2. Which is also very nice. Now on fire, and in fact, we should actually, just to say, the FA are due to actually confirm a decision as to whether they will be promoted. I mean, there was a lot of discourse across the women's game in terms of the way that it was null and voided, and therefore there is a chance that we can, in fact, the girls, because of obviously the last couple of seasons, be promoted to the third tier. So fingers and toes crossed that happens because they are on form. They're on absolute form, and
a bit insulting, isn't it? If you want to promote the women's game, to treat them like this.
Yeah, 2 seasons null and void off the bat. Yeah, exactly.
It is just wrong.
Indeed, and the last 2 seasons they've had, as I say, have been brilliant. And as I say, that FA Cup run I think, has hopefully helped change the team completely. I have a feeling it will be that is the very much is the catalyst to them going good guns. And also want to have a shout out to Walsall Wood Football Club, who have reached the FA Vase semi-finals as a note. So they are 1 game away from heading down to Wembley. Although the small problem is they will, if the form book goes right, they will have to play the winners of the 2019-20 Vase, which saw the final happens there, a dramatic one, apparently a 3-2 win for them against Consort at Wembley. I think we have to play Heaven Town in the semis, which is quite a bit of a twist, but nice for the Midlands to have potentially 2 teams, because Hereford also in the FA Trophy final.
Hey, my second team.
Yes, Hereford in the trophy final against who are they in the trophy final against? I completely forgot.
No idea. Not really my second team. It's just, but I have family from that way. I don't.
No, yes, obviously being a Worcestershire.
I can't say they're my second team. And then you say they're in there. Who are they playing? And I've got no idea.
They are. No idea. Let me have a look, just out of curiosity. FA Trophy, but they reached the final a couple of weeks ago, so it could be a Midlands double header. And they have AFC Hornchurch on the 22nd of May. So it's fingers crossed that they get the win. Up the West Midlands, of course. As Brighton on Sunday, then. As I know, it's 9 o'clock already, almost. Brighton on Sunday. Anything better than? Can we first of all say that, please, can we perform better whilst we're on the BBC, for goodness sake? Because it's exactly the same time at the same place. Molineuxmix Sunday 12 p.m. kickoff. And obviously last week was just, well, I didn't know what I wanted to do, quite frankly, before leafleting. I was just, I think, sitting into silence thinking, how the hell could we play that badly?
If we go out like we did today, and then on top of doing what we did, and if we go ahead again, we then continue to play further up the pitch instead of fearing and worrying about conceding every single time, we'll win it. I'd quite happily say we'll win it. 2 or 3, I reckon 2 or 3 goals. Maybe we'll concede 1, but 2 or 3 goals, we'd win it if we persisted with that kind of play. Because today we could have scored 2 or 3, but for some good goalkeeping and a bit of fortune. Yeah. But the reason we've drawn is because we withdrew again and invited the team on. We say it so many times on these things. We all agree, but it was so much better today. That attitude, that should be the baseline. That should be the baseline where we go. That first half is how we expect you to perform, even if you're off the boil. So that's your bottom. It can only be better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the scope for why was Polly out? Was he dropped?
It was related to I think he's suffering from COVID.
Okay.
Nuno said it was COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not in a good way. Nuno's words was, but obviously he's having to self-isolate and so forth. So hopefully he'll be back soon. And
it might be too soon for him Sunday.
Yes, I would suspect so.
I would think so.
Yeah.
No, taking no risks.
Having had it, I can tell you it will be.
Because I'm guessing he hit you like a bullet train, didn't you? Remember that?
Well, you think you're all right, and then you go to try and like run somewhere, and you're just like, where has all my strength and fitness gone? It's like opening a tap and draining all your fitness out.
Thought that was
you
old
feel,
age.
Well, there is that. Yeah. Well, yes, that too. The two together are not a good mix. But even so, even for an elite athlete, you're gonna lose. You're not going to be able to perform at that elite level. He might still be able to run around the block and sprint around the block, but not for 90 minutes. It just won't happen.
And it's fine margins as well.
Yeah.
Like a 90% Bolly is not going to be as good as a 100% Kilman, for example.
Yeah. Exactly. Indeed. For Sunday, if we come out good in that, if we play like we did in the first half, and obviously still came out again, getting forward, having shots, I think we'll be okay. If obviously Brighton beat Leeds and obviously exposing the floor in Mr. Bielsa's side, I think we'll say much better performance tonight than last week, and hopefully it will give everybody a few positives, and obviously continue to play the youngsters who are clearly there and ready. Then I think it could work out quite well. So I will go with I'll go for 2-1. I was going to say 2-0, but obviously we concede every game, which is obviously a problem. But I'll go over 2-1, and Fabio will continue his good streak. No idea who'll get the other, but I think we'll win, get on to 44 points, and then I think we'll be looking rather looking. It's very solid, safe mid-table. Nothing bad, nothing spectacular. Just I think all right considering the circumstances. But I think a 2-1 win. I think a 2-1 win will be my hunch, and another Fabio goal. Which again, he could have had a few tonight, by the way. But also one big good thing was the confidence that flew through him after him scoring. Absolutely brilliant on the guy.
So, Rich, your score?
I'm going to go 3-0. Semedo to score, and Fabio not to score. But Nuno's going to have a rush of blood to the head, and at some point in the game, we'll have Fabio and Jose on, and Fabio will thread the ball to Jose for one. And he'll get a bullet header for one as well. So 3-0, 2 from Jose, 1 from Semedo.
I could see 3. I also think 3-0. I don't know why. I think because we do normally give one away, but I do think we can score if we play purely. If we this plan that we did in the first half, if we play like that further up the pitch, the players who are not just relying on Traore to run at everybody, and that we're moving stuff sensibly through the middle, and that Silva continues to have his move. We can score 2-3 goals a game, no problem. Genuinely believe that. So I will also go for 3-0. And except I think one of the goal scorers will be Saiss off a free kick or a corner. And I think the other goal will be, I think Vitinha will score, to be honest. Yeah. And probably Podence, because I think he may not start, but he will play, and he may have a bit more fitness, because he looks to be struggling with fitness at the moment.
Yeah, I thought he was a bit better today. Still not 100%, but he seemed to be a bit more, little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Podence, but he clearly is not fit enough to play at the moment. He doesn't look fit. No. And it's like you say, it's like there's fine margins. Yeah, that's a 70-80% Podence for me at the moment, what we're seeing. And that will change when he's...
What did you think of Morgan Gibbs-White today?
I know everyone else thinks he's great, but he's just fancy flicks and turns for me.
He got us a few free kicks. It was more of a cameo performance tonight.
I know he's only 21. I know that, and I appreciate. Which is why I'm not reserving judgment at this point. I think genuinely think he was too busy doing. Every time he received the ball, he had to try and do a turn, and he got away with it a couple of times when he turned into players and got a foul. And I thought he was very lucky to get fouls. And I know I will be crucified for this by many people, but this is just my opinion. I just don't think he's at this level at the moment. But as I say, that's at the moment. He's only 21. So, or is he older than that now? Or is he still 21?
I think he's going on 22.
Right. But either way, he's not like
No.
his mid-20s sort of thing. So I would give him another season.
Yeah.
Before I made it.
I think he'd do better going to the Championship for a decent team where he's going to get game time. Yeah. Certainly for half the season, he needs game time. And I don't.
That's probably right.
I do think that. I mean, I maintain if you're a professional footballer at any level, you've effectively made it. I do think he can set the Championship alight, and a player like him, that I think that's what he needs. But I wasn't disappointed in his performance. I thought in those conditions, you.
Oh yeah. It's not really the best one to really judge him by. He
did the running. He did the running and he did the tracking back. I thought it was a positive performance, even though it was a cameo. But I'm just interested in thinking, there's another player there who is getting some game time. Obviously, he'd want more. I agree with you. He's nowhere near starting, is he? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, I compare him. I'm basically going to compare him like for like to Vitinha and Otasowie. And in terms of impact on the game, in terms of impact on our play in general, when they both went off, we lost something.
Oh yeah.
So. And then again, I know I will get criticised for it and saying it. I don't think he has the same impact on the game that those two players, and those two players are younger than him.
Yes, so, and that to me says. I mean, players do develop at different rates.
Yeah.
But he needs a shed load of game time.
Absolutely,
he's not going to go to Wolves.
Yeah, he's not. No, because he's not. Because of that same impact. Those two, okay, they've only played a few games themselves, but in those couple of games today, Vitinha's had a lot more impact. Other games he hasn't, but he took his chance today and has shown a big, strong impact. Gibbs White, for me, hasn't shown really any impact for 2 or 3 seasons, which I know he's been injured and he's been on loan and stuff like that. Okay. I'll take that into account. But as I said, I would give him another year. But, he has played half a season. How many? Well, actually, no, that might be wrong. So I can't really say that. How many games did he play when he was on loan at Swansea?
Not that many until he got injured, but he was ripping it up fairly well.
Yeah, he was playing
and that for me is where I look at him. He's physically changed. He's developed physically.
Oh yeah. He's definitely.
And I just think. I just hope he gets that opportunity to show what he can do at that level. Because I think that league made Jota. He was getting kicked every week. I really think it made Jota and Neves to some degree, but certainly Jota. So I think if I know he's a lot older, but I suspect you'll see him in the Prem, Gibbs White, in 2-3 years' time. It's just too weird. That's my view. I agree with you about Vitinha and Otasowie. I think with Vitinha, you could always see he was looking to play the ball forward. And you're in a very physical yet skillful league with awful referees. So,
one word, just as I think final word would be on about, obviously, I think the referee, he was there in the first half, did okay. And then obviously, of course, Mr. Dean coming on, being the absolute bull sack he is. If only VAR was switched off last week as the fire alarm was, then maybe that would have caught everybody off. Would have hopefully had sprung a big surprise and a lesson. At
least we didn't have any VAR catastrophe decisions.
No, nothing VAR tonight.
Wasn't that joyous? Oh my God!
Fairly clean game actually in that regard. Then nothing notorious.
The fouls were just your normal. Oh, I've got to bring you down, have a night type.
And I think also the rain, obviously, is one because I think Don Goodman described it as biblical conditions.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Oh,
It was. They could certainly play. Certainly, some to say, "Hey, so we play It's Raining Men" from the Weather Girls, or whatever. Because my God, it was like it.
You kind of felt that if you conceded or scored, in that period of heavy rain, you kind of felt it won't really be a goal, really, because it's so wet. You can see the ball.
But a goal would have been a goal.
Yeah.
No one said that about Fabio.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's leave it there then, and we'll return on. Was it Sunday?
I will return on Sunday after being on a ballot paper on Thursday. But it's all fun and games, and get a lot of sleep in between. Yes. But if anyone does want to join us, it's Burnley 1, West Ham United 2 at half time. Antonio double. So it means Albion's asses are saved a little longer. But if anyone does want to join on Sunday, then do come. Yeah. We'll be around, I think, probably around just after 2 o'clock or so. Of being a kick off.
We'll be here as usual. So
as per usual.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.